Today, the Milken Institute released a study estimating that 7 chronic diseases are costing the U.S. economy more than $1 trillion a year, and by mid-century, the number could grow to more than $6 trillion. Joining us now for more on that study is Billy Tauzin. He's the former congressman from Louisiana, president and CEO now of the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America. Pharma helped fund that Milken Institute study. And Mr. Tauzin, thanks for the time today. And what do you take away from this study? Does this represent an opportunity for your member companies or something else?
Well, it represents an opportunity for America to avoid a very serious cost. What we learned was that the biggest cost was in lost productivity. Treating all these chronic diseases is very expensive. It may amount to as much as $800 billion in just 20 years. But the $4 to $6 trillion of lost productivity is something we all ought to be concerned about.
And what do you think this study will do to the overall debate about healthcare? We've got a lot of presidential candidates out there talking right now, talking about the high cost of healthcare, the high cost of prescription drugs. Any sense that there's going to be agreement in the near future between Republicans and Democrats, the industry and members of Congress over some of these issues?
Well, I think they're going to continue to disagree on how to pay for those things. What we all ought to agree, though, is that we're much better off when we begin paying for prevention, early diagnosis and treatment than for paying for all the damage done by these chronic diseases. If we don't turn our attention to focusing on prevention and early treatment, we're going to end up sinking this economy.
What is the role of the drug industry in trying to address some of these chronic conditions? Other than providing drugs and research and things like that, is there something more the industry should be responsible for, should be willing to do to try to address this issue, given the threat to the U.S. economy?
Absolutely. We should be partners with everyone else, and we are partners in the fight on chronic disease. First of all, to turn the incentives toward early detection and preventable diseases. The more we prevent, the more we early detect, we're going to obviously do well in the marketplace with our medicines. That's not the issue. The issue is we save incredible amounts of pain, suffering, and dollars to the U.S. economy, and we save a lot of money in the healthcare system. Imagine if we could save $1.1 trillion in a given year because we started dealing with disease at the beginning instead of at the end of its course. It's that simple a choice.
Is this the role again for the government? Is this where government-run healthcare should step in and address these issues?
That's a question of who pays for it. That's a separate debate. We believe, obviously, that the private market system ought to take care of as much of that as it possibly can. But no matter who pays for it, the question is, what are you paying for? Today, we spend 75 cents out of every dollar we spend on healthcare on the damage done by chronic disease. If we just spent a portion of that on prevention, early detection, good treatment when a disease starts, we'd be in much better shape. We'd save untold billions of dollars.
Let me ask you about another issue that's in the news right now. I know you're going to be speaking about this later on this week. That's the issue of counterfeiting of drugs. A lot of concern here in the United States about food safety, about toy safety. Drug safety continues to be a prominent concern as well. What are you going to share at this counterfeiting discussion with the Commerce Secretary and others later on this week?
Well, the good news is that it's a 1% problem in America. The bad news is that if you're the person who gets a bad drug and it ends up hurting you, killing you, that's not very good. In the world, it's about a 10% problem. In some countries, it's as high as 50% already. We're protected in America by something called the PDMA, which says that when drugs are produced overseas at FDA facilities, they have to stay in the custody and control of the manufacturer all the way into this marketplace. If we get rid of that rule, we're subject not only to counterfeit drugs, but fake drugs that would do an awful lot of damage, not just to the economy, but to the health of citizens in this country.
I know this has been a big issue for a lot of your member companies. They have their own security forces out there trying to track down counterfeiters. What countries are the biggest problems right now?
Well, I don't have to tell you. The New York Times already told us. It's places out in the Far East, particularly China. We know, for example, that there are products coming into this country through Canada from China that are absolutely fake and will absolutely hurt people. Stopping those products, catching them in the mail is a big challenge. We did a survey when I was in Congress of imports coming into Miami. 94% were counterfeit. Many of those were fake. There are two classifications of counterfeit drugs. You can make a good drug counterfeit. That's bad. You can also make a fake drug that maybe contains no active ingredients or maybe something very bad for you. In either case, you're in trouble. There are more and more fakes now in the world. New York Times reported half of the malaria medicine being used in Africa today is fake and killing people.
One final question. Congress did act in the last few weeks to reauthorize the FDA, the funding program that enables the FDA to continue its operations, continue to inspect drugs and check on drug safety. They also, for the first time, allowed the FDA requiring drug makers to continue studies after certain products reach the market. There's some members of Congress say this bill does not go far enough, that even more needs to be done. Your response to that?
Well, I think the FDA is going to have all the authority it needs. The truth is about 3% of the drugs that have been produced in America during the history of the industry have been surprises in the marketplace. Today, that 3% is still the number, but that's too high. And the more we can do to find out about a drug that's a problem in the marketplace sooner and alert patients and physicians, the better. We've given the FDA that authority in the new bill. We should be very happy with that.
All right, Billy Tauzin, the Chief Executive of Pharma. We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us here on Money and Politics.
Good to be here.